Not the Footy Show.
It's been really nice talking to both of you guys.
Absolutely. The pleasure's all on this side of the table, trust me.
Good luck with your layoffs, all right? I hope your firings go really well.
Excellent. Great. Wow.
Be the ball.
G'day everybody, welcome to episode 231 of Not The Footy Show. We're back on your big screen, your little screen, your YouTube screen, whatever screen you want to be. Cocksmith's just taking a ceremonial sip of coffee as he enjoys, well, Mr. Robb Cox, sorry, I'm Warrick Nicolson. Mate, you're enjoying the 4-match winning streak of the Dragons. Who'd have thunk it?
Well, 4's a funny number, isn't it? Especially when you're in the top 4.
Oh,
The Raiders aren't there, are they?
no, we're in the next 4. Same as the Dragons. Same as the Eels, who, grand final tickets have been torn up asunder. Deluxe over in the Golden West in the last 24 hours. But the Dragons,
How
mate,
good.
I made the joke on our Insta, Ben Hunt holding the finals, the Premiership in his hand after 1 win. Well, 3 more wins later, and I think I texted you the best half of footy I've seen them play for a number of years last night. That was impressive.
Yeah, it was. They also got the rub of the green. I think, as you know, I'm a bit of a fan of Atkins as a referee, but there were a couple of things last night that if you're a Parramatta fan, you would have been pulling your hair out if you had any, because there was a few things that probably didn't go their way. But at the end of the day, you make your own luck, and St George have had plenty of bad luck come their way over the last few years. So, hey, it feels good on a Monday to wake up and the team won and.
Again.
In the top 4.
Again.
Yeah. So, yeah, again. We'll take it while we can get it. I'm not sure it's going to last forever, but we'll take it while we can get it.
We did make some flippant comments about old Hook Griffin after round 1. It's a month later.
Egg on the face, big
time.
I
was going to say, you want to rescind any of those? How much do we put down how they're playing? And this is, I guess, the question to you. Is this a result of Hook's coaching? Or is this a result of being freed of the Mary McGregor fiasco or the saga for the last 3 years?
Look, we just had a discussion before what we're going to talk about in this podcast. And I don't know if any coach at any level of sport has the influence to do what St George are doing this year. I think it's a group effort, mate. It's the boys buying in. It's the boys wanting to work for each other. It's the coach saying the right things. It's the right blokes on the field at the right time. So it's like a magic casserole.
Who have you beaten again? Cowboys?
Parramatta. And a couple I can't remember. You tell me.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you that. That was so memorable that you've gone all over them. I've got to look it up because it would be foolish of us to decide that they've actually gone any good. So they lost the first game to the Sharkies. That was a bad performance. Then they beat the Cowboys. Then they beat Manly. So 2 cracking victories on the board at the moment. And then you
Manly
beat
were winners last weekend too.
And then you beat Newcastle, who imploded the last couple of weeks and again in the second half against the Titans. So, okay, you've got 4 wins, but I'm not going to say that it's, apart from Parramatta, they're all pretty ordinary sides.
Well, yeah, look, there's no Penrith or Storm in that bunch, but you got to build to those things. And like I say, mate, I don't know how the year's going to end for the Dragons and Hook. I just know that they won't be last now.
Yes.
So
4 wins on the board. It's a pretty good effort. I still am owed 2 dinners, just to be aware. The other team we want to talk about, Dragons fans, we won't delve too deeply. As I said, the fact that they've beaten 3 ordinary sides and 1 good side, be very happy. And this is how you make the 8. You win these matches now. You can have a bad month and then all of a sudden you're 4 and 5. That's not catastrophic. Whereas if you only win 1 off your first 2 games, you have a bad month, 2 and 7, 2 and 8. You're struggling to make the top 8. But the team that just cannot get in the top 8, no matter how hard they try, no matter how many coaches they seem to employ, the West Tigers, mate. We shared some messages yesterday. Full disclosure, I only watched the first 15 minutes of this match. I saw the Cowboys get 10 points to 4 ahead and went, that's enough. This is going to be one of those Tigers days. I know there were plenty of other circumstances going into the weekend. You thought this will be the way the Tigers will be up, but Yeah, booed off at halftime apparently, and they got within 4 in the end, but I don't believe it was really that close. Is that right?
Yeah, look, I do remember in recent history the Tigers being booed off. The crowd will turn on the Tigers, and the Tigers at any time have got it in them to for a performance like that. Mate, they were diabolical yesterday. They really were. There's a few blokes in that team that look like they're not really having a dig in defence. I'd like to make special mention as far as not about defence, but Luke Brooks now has been the beneficiary of when the big four broke up. Tedesco, Woods, and Moses leaving the club, and Brooks was considered to be in that big four. He was a beneficiary of that because
he was the first one to re-sign, wasn't he? I think he re-signed before the other three made their decisions, didn't he?
Well, yeah, I can't remember exactly how it went, but I believe you're right. Now he was a beneficiary of that. He that truck that just went past you is actually carrying his next week's salary because
it's struggling. It's going down a hill and it's struggling. It's how much is on the back.
Yeah, in the vicinity of $800,000 to $900,000 a year, and good on him for getting that. If I could get $800,000 a year for what I do, fantastic. But he really hasn't performed to the level of a.
Sorry, the truck's coming back at the moment. Everybody, just with the extra money, just picked up another week's pay. How it goes past.
Yeah, there you go.
There it goes.
There he goes. Maybe that's Madge at the bottom of the hill turning it around and driving it away from Luke Brooks.
Madge. Yes, we'll go on to him in a sec.
I don't want to be too mean about Luke Brooks because look, he didn't miss all the tackles that their defence is diabolical. Dewey and James Roberts need to learn how to work together on that right edge in defence because one's coming up, one's staying back. The Cowboys aren't a great team, but it didn't take them long to figure that out. And they scored a lot of points yesterday, which isn't all Luke Brooks' fault. But I've looked at the Tigers over this year, and I think their forwards are all right. Their forwards do the business. But when it comes time to create and when it comes to clutch plays, they've got nothing. They've got absolutely nothing. In my mind, they've got a few blokes in there that are getting paid double what they should be getting paid, and it's stuffed their salary cap up. We all know about the Reynolds thing. Reynolds was on an absolute gift there. Mbai is also on the same style of gift. I don't think there's another club in the world that would be paying Mbai in between $800,000 and $900,000 a year.
Remember, they signed him from the Bulldogs as a fullback. He got fullback money. This is 3 years ago. And that's not where they're playing him. They were going to play him there this season. They said he was trained all off-season at fullback, and now they're playing him all over the shop.
No dice. He's not a fullback. He's not even a centre, really. He's a bloke
he's a hooker.
Who plays centre.
His position these days is a hooker.
I think he's a hooker or a very second fiddle six. I don't even know if Dewey's a six, to be honest with you. I think he's a fullback.
I reckon he's a centre.
But anyway. The fact is that big things need to happen at the Tigers because I don't think they're going to finish ninth this year, given what I saw yesterday. And let's be honest, Coach Maguire has done really well at keeping his contract by coming ninth. John Morris is about to lose his contract. He's played 2 seasons got to the finals, and he's about to, if all the reports are correct, he won't be there next year.
We'll get to the whole Fitzgibbon thing in a sec, but Madge, 9th in 2019, 11th last year.
Okay. So, I'd consider those failures. I wouldn't heap it all on Madge, basically because he did inherit a team that he didn't really want. But you know what? There's a few things that have happened since Madge has been there that I can put it, lay blame at his feet. What they did last year to Benji Marshall. If you're Madge, I would think that you would do what you can to hold on to Benji Marshall, even if you think he's an over-the-hill, burnout old fart. Because what he's doing at South is exactly what he should be doing at the Tigers.
Benji was pretty good last year.
Yeah.
Like, even within the whole Maguire lost complete faith in him and made a scapegoat of him. I mean, just on Brooks quickly, he is a player who I think plays his best footy when he's running into gaps. He's a quick off the mark kind of player. But all he seems to do at the Tigers is get the ball and riff it in the air. That seems to be the full extent of what he does at the Tigers. They wait for the last tackle, which I don't doubt is a Maguire thing. Complete your set, get a kick up. But the problem is he's got Adam Dewey, who is a runner who doesn't pass it, next to him, who's kicking a bit more as well. So that's taken away from his running game. Dane Laurie, a bit of a find, but he's a complementary fullback at best. He's not a game-changing fullback. He's a runner as well. They've got James Roberts, who I still don't understand how he has a contract, because I don't know what he offers you that you can't get from somebody in New South Wales Cup these days. He used to be something special, but he's just a bit of a liability. Speaking of liabilities, BJ Leilua, he looks like he has, shall we say, I'm saying this nicely, but he's ballooned. He's not fit. I can't believe he got back into first grade this week. He lasted of the HIA and went out. I don't understand those two acquisitions. And if you've got guys in your halves who don't play make anyway, that makes both of those two pretty useless anyway, because they don't get the ball. Like, so then you've got Nefaluma, who's their most attacking player, who barely sees it in attack. He's relied on for his kick return meters and he's rucking out of his own end stuff. And I just go, I don't expect the Tigers to be an amazing football side with what they've got. But should they be competing for that bottom of the 8th spot? Well, yeah, in today's NRL, where there's a bunch of pretty ordinary sides, they should be. But they just dropped a game to the North Queensland Cowboys, who didn't look like winning a game all year, where they were down 30-10 or whatever the score was. Like,
yeah,
that's a major indictment on Maguire at the moment. If you can't get his team up for that, massive issues.
It could be a little bit of attitude, you know. I mean, thinking all they need to do is walk through the turnstile and they'd win that game is the wrong attitude to have, because, you know, as bad as North Queensland are, they're still an NRL team.
Yep.
And if you take them lightly, this is what you'll get. But I really feel sorry for the forwards. I think they've built a pretty good forward pack there, maybe barring the hooker, who isn't a bad player, but they've got a better hooker at that club. You and I have spoken about him before.
Jake Simkin. It was time.
You've got to see this kid play, because he's a good player.
He is.
He's a player. Anyway, but they've got a pretty good forward pack. You know, they've got, now these all aren't household names, but you've got the makings of a good forward pack. You've got Offengowie, you've got James Tarmow.
Just quickly, Offengowie played on the edge yesterday. Now
he's a middle player.
I don't like. He played almost 70 minutes. Again, I didn't watch the game in full, but if he's a middle guy, you brought him to middle guy. Why you play him on an? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like that's a query and a half there.
Yeah, they've got a good forward pack, and I think since round one, the forward pack have been doing what the forwards need to do. The problem is when they get to the creative plays, there's nothing doing. There is nothing doing, and if you know, it's got to be frustrating for Maguire, but you know, if you've got something that's not working, you need to change it or fix it. And at the moment, neither of those have been done. And you know, maybe Maguire's hands are tied. I wouldn't doubt it. You know, lots of weird things happen at NRL clubs this year. But well, look, the Tigers are in trouble.
Well, they've got South next week.
They're going to get pumped. They're going to get pumped next week.
But after that, they play Manly at. Oh, it doesn't have it on NRL.com. They play Manly at home. Then they play the Dragons away. And then in round 9, they have the Titans at home.
Well, there's only one of those games that they can win. Saints will pump them, and so will the Titans.
I'm not jumping on that Saints bandwagon yet. I know we started the show with it, but those are 3 games that if they want to turn their season around, you cop the loss to South. They won't win that game. But they've got Manly, St. George, and the Titans. If you want to turn your season around, Michael Maguire, he's got to get results out of that game. Otherwise, we know how harsh the NRL coaching rank, hot stove is, because John Morris just lost his job after leading the Roosters 18-4 with 20 minutes to go. So Maguire, I know Pascoe seems to be an interesting CEO as they come and decisions that he makes, but there's going to be some pressure from the West Tigers board there. If they can't get results out of those 3 games, which are eminently winnable games in the way this season is, the Tigers will have 1 win from their opening 9 games.
Let's not forget as well, John Morris is an ex-Tigers player.
He is.
There's a connection there. There'll be pressure on Maguire sooner or later. I know that he could have a 20-year contract. It won't matter. Contracts don't mean anything.
Well, let me just finish
what matters
that they've got
is performances.
Yeah, they've got to get results, and somehow the Dragons are getting them, and Tigers are not. Who would have thought that entering the season, though, Cocksmith, that
Not me.
the Dragons would be 4 from 5 and the Tigers 1 from 5. Interesting
good.
times. We're back to recap the rest of round 5, talk a bit more rugby league here on Not The Footy Show, episode 231.
Not the Footy Show.
Okay, we're back. It's episode 231. That's Robb Cox. I'm Warrick Nicolson, back on the YouTube this week. You're obviously listening to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. If you haven't given us a rating, well, that's pretty much the course for the last 2 years. So I appreciate everybody. Rock solid. The NRL ladder currently looks at the Panthers on the top with an outstanding performance last Friday night. Roosters, Rabbitohs, Dragons, Eels, all with 4 from 5 wins. I want to get to the round and we'll go through some games, but I want to start with the John Morris news that emerged pretty much 5 minutes after the Roosters came from behind, 18-4 with 20 to go to beat John Morris's Sharkies. Before this game, it was mooted that he was getting replaced. They'd already hit the paper cycle with that. You said it in the first segment that he'd made the finals the last 2 years and got rolled in the first round. That's what it is. If I'm a Sharkies fan, I'm disappointed this has happened. But there was a decent point made in one of the WhatsApp groups I'm in, and that is, are the Sharks really going to win a competition with John Morris as their coach? And think about everything that goes with that. And that isn't a crack at John Morris as tactician, bloke, experience, etc. But is he a big enough name to attract the kind of players that they need to get back into the contending sphere? And the answer might be no. So are the Sharkies, as bad as this timing is, going all in on Craig Fitzgibbon because of the connections, because of the fact that he's from a winning culture at the Roosters? I don't like the timing. The timing is abhorrent from the Sharks' point of view, but is it the right decision, Cocksmith?
Look, to your point, I don't think the Sharks can win a competition, not only with the coach that they've got, but more importantly, the cattle that they've got. Now, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? The coach is usually the one that attracts the better players to the fold. And I'd say that Fitzgibbon initially anyway, because we don't know what kind of a coach he is, he's never been a head coach, will attract some name players. But we've seen how that figured out for Trent Barrett as well at the Bulldogs. We will get to the Bulldogs later because they're interesting.
To your point, has attracted the name players. That's a tick.
Yep.
That is a tick for the Bulldogs with Trent Barrett on board. Yep.
So look, I don't look. Today, as of today, Monday, the Sharks are saying we've done nothing. We haven't signed anybody. They're games. They're playing games. They've agreed. They, you'd have to be a fool to think that that this isn't going to happen. It's going to happen, and I feel bad for John Morris because I do think he can coach, and I think, he received that team in all sorts of a mess from the previous coaching
regime.
Regime. They've got salary cap problems. They've got players that, I'd like to know how many games Moylan has been there for and how many he's played. And it's not his fault. He's got terrible, hamstring injuries and groins and all sorts of stuff. Sean Johnson, how many has he been there for? How many has he played? So injury, what I'm saying there is I'm not blaming the players. I'm saying injuries have been woeful for poor old John Morris. He's had drug problems, which was not of his doing, with young Bronson Cherry proving positive or testing positive to banned substances, can't play anymore. So he's had a rough time. I don't think this will be his last club. He will coach again.
Okay.
I do believe that. I don't know where, because you never do know where they're going to lob up. It could be at the Tigers, ex-Tiger. I think the honeymoon's over up in Newcastle too, by the way, for Mr. O'Brien. Everything was running so smoothly.
We'll get to that
up there. Yeah. But yeah, I think you're right, and I think your people who you've been communicating with are right. I think that to win a premiership, they do need to change a few things, including probably the coach, just for star power draw at the Sharks. But they do need to clear the ranks too, because they've got, like the Tigers, they've got some players who are either unable to play or haven't really aimed up, who are on big money, and they need to free that money up to get the players that they want. So, and look, I've met John Morris a couple of times, and a better bloke you won't meet, as far as a bloke goes. He's a bit like Laurie Daly, terrific fella, really terrific fella.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, this was always going to be a poison chalice for him because of the way it started. It started with horror
from a club point of view, given what they overlooked during the Flanagan regime to get the premiership. All right, they wanted that again. They wanted Flanagan if they could have had him. They didn't want to get rid of him. They were forced that was the case. He's following someone who got away with everything, but delivered a premiership. That's very hard to follow because you try and do it properly with the current cattle you've got, the contract situation you've got, the salary cap situation that you've been lumped with. And to be in the finals 2 years in a row, that's a fair effort. And going back to the game on Saturday night, they didn't have the game won, but it was pretty close. And 20 minutes to go, the stat that blew me away that went up on the Fox Sports screen, between the 60th minute and the 76th minute, the Sharkies had the ball 3 times.
Yeah, they got starved. They got starved out of that game. We'll get to that game though, but I mean, they lost the unlosable. That shouldn't have been lost by any NRL team. No. That game, I turned it on when it was it 18-6?
18-4. 18-4.
Okay, I turned it on at 18-4, and I said to my son, I said, "Geez, these doesn't look like these halves have aimed up for the Roosters." Knowing nothing about the game, I just surmised that they were struggling because of the cattle that they had on the field. Proved to be totally incorrect. Let's start in that game just for the sake of the Sam Walker situation. As good as he was, Drew Hutchison deserves a lot of credit because he's the one that actually got the ball rolling that Walker then pushed down the hill. The try he scored exposed a couple of things that astute footy fans will have noticed, but Jesse Ramian cannot defend. He can hit, but he cannot defend. He got exposed on the first try and then the Walker try later of basically saying to his teammates, I'm marking their centre, and as long as I'm covering him, I don't care what's happening on my inside shoulder. Have a look at the replay on both tries. It's a show and go from the half, sweeping round to the left-hand side. And on both occasions, Ramian sort of has eyes for his own guy, but has no desire to push back and cover on his inside shoulder where Townsend got exposed on both occasions. There was a thing that was said during the telecast, I'm not a dirty player, I let my teammates down. Well, that to me is almost letting your teammates down worse than the high tackle he did on Dufty a few weeks ago. That happens. That can happen sometimes. But if you're getting exposed this badly because you don't want to cover your inside shoulder as a centre, I mean, that's defense 101, or am I wrong? Am I completely missing the mark here? Because that was awful. Sorry, it was. As a centre and an edge player, you need to adapt. It's not just a straight up run. You need to have eyes open, and he has got issues, Ramian. The issues that can be fixed, but it's an attitude adjustment.
Yeah,
more than anything. And look, I do agree. I think Drew Hutchison probably deserves a little bit more cred than what everybody's giving. He deserves a part of that cred that they're giving Sam Walker. Sam Walker was good though.
He was.
He showed everyone's seen the highlight packages of him. He's got great vision. He's a footy player. He's got very good vision for his outside and even to his inside as well. And he'll only get better and better. He's, barring any crazy injury, he's, I think what we saw the other night is we've seen a precursor to what he can become. And there's no doubt that, the Roosters don't sign people that aren't very good. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't look at a player and go, oh yeah, he's all right, we'll sign him. They don't do that.
No.
The Roosters aren't a club like that.
No,
they brought him down from Queensland for a reason.
He was, and they got rid of Kyle Flanagan after 1 year for a reason. The last point on that, Tedesco, he's playing a lot of first receiver. He's doing a lot of work. There's a couple of times, and I think, who have they got this week? They got the Storm. It's a cracking game this week. Storm won't give it up, but there's a couple of times in the game I was watching pretty closely that Tedesco absolutely burned the outside edge back rower and actually ended up passing to Manu or Brett Morris. Teddy won't pass those opportunities up too often. He would have carved them through. I think where you're seeing with Tedesco is a bit of an evolution of a player, which this year, even when Keary was there, is that he is hungry for the ball, more so to create than just to run. But he's creating opportunities while he's running. And it's scary looking at the motor on that bloke, because it seems like he's even just picked up a little bit more of that absolute desire to make an impact this year. It's impressive to watch.
Well, do you remember Darren Lockyer? What he did? He went from 1 to 6 because he showed signs of doing what Tedesco is doing now. You could sign Tedesco as a 6 at any NRL club and be quite confident that he could play 6, I think. He's very dangerous because he can pop up anywhere, but you could do that with a 6 too. This is this is nothing new for Tedesco, but what he's doing at the moment is he's perfecting what he's been working on for the last couple of years, which is that guy that just, lurks behind the ruck, a la Billy Slater. Billy Slater could have played 6 too, no doubt in my mind. But the surprise factor of having him pop up anywhere is probably a little bit more damaging than having him line up on the left or right. I really like Tedesco as a player, and it was interesting what he said about Chad Townsend.
Well, go for it, mate. Bring that one up.
Well, he's come out and said that Townsend tried to put Sam off of his game. Yeah.
A bit of sledging, old-fashioned halfback sledging. Bring it on.
And Townsend said, "No, I didn't say that." I believe he probably did, and he'd be silly not to.
That's his
get
job.
Get inside the young bloke's head early on, then you might have a chance of putting him off. It ultimately didn't work because, as we mentioned, Sam Walker had a fantastic game.
But he wasn't the only Roosters player that he sledged either. He was JWH. JWH took him out and gave away a penalty, and Townsend just laughed in his face. Aha, you suck. You've given away a penalty. You passed it. Like blah, 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 blah. And then JWH, the best game he's had for 2 years after that. He carried the Roosters on his back.
It's no surprise. The turning of the tide came with JWH re-entering the fray. Yeah. He's their go-forward guy. He's their intimidator. He's their watchdog.
Don't wake him up.
Yeah, look, I still think he's probably in the top 3 front rowers in the world. He's not playing the minutes he used to, but mate, he's the nicest guy off the field and probably one hombre you don't want to run into on the field. So stay out of his corridor. Don't rattle his cage. Don't
Roosters,
wake the sleeping giant.
I think since Keary's been hurt, they've won 2 in a row. Interesting.
It could be different this week, mate.
It could be. Let's go through the rest of the games for round 5. We'll quickly just pass through Rabbitohs 35-6 over Brisbane. I actually liked the opening 20 from Brisbane, even though the scoreline that South got on the board 2 early tries. They actually showed a bit of oomph. Their forwards up the middle, Lodge, Haas, Pangai Jr., they're all running hard. And then Kevy followed the script that he'd written before the game, which was, I'm going to take these 3 blokes off, I'll put other players on, and my bench will carry me through the next 4. Stop it. NRL coaches, You're doing my head in. If something's working, do you have to go away for it just because the game plan said do this? Because what really bugs me, and a lot of coaches do this, is that a game will be on a knife's edge just after halftime, and you're crying out for your best middles to get back on the field. You get a little bit of field position, get the other team on the back foot, and you just try and squeeze another 10 minutes out of your bench guys, and the game turns. It's exactly what happened here in the South game. It was 24-6, which, it's a bit of a margin when I'm not sure who scored. Mitchell scored his first try, which was a bit soft. But then the Broncos had 5, 6, 7 minutes up the other end of the field, and Haas was off the field. Or Haas had only just come on the field, but Lodge was off the field, Pangai Jr. off the field, and Tom Flegler knocked on right in front of the post. And the next set of 6, South went down the field, scored a try, 35-6 was your final. Kevy sitting on the sideline, mate, I don't think it's doing wonders for his reputation. I know you can read too much into some things, but he looks like he is sitting there by himself. No one's talking to him. He's not barking any instructions. It looks like he's sort of like, well, they know what to do. They know what to do. And I'm like, oh, it's one of those visual things that wouldn't instill me with a lot of confidence if I'm a Broncos fan. Am I being too harsh?
It may be a little bit. I mean, yeah, I think maybe a little bit, but I do think that Kevy needs to readjust the game plan according to what's happening in front of him. Do it like he played the game. You know that players are, some players are good for 40 to 50 minutes, other players are good for 20 to 30, and sometimes you've got to get those players back on the field, or keep someone on the field because you've got the weight of possession, you're rolling a little bit, but he'll figure it out. I just don't know if he's going to figure it out before the Broncos get tired of what's happening.
That's my point, Cocksmith, is they're losing, all right? So it's 24-6, but you're in the game. There's still half an hour to go. Who cares about the last 10 minutes of the match at that stage?
Well, as someone,
the game is there,
and I agree with you. You'd think that Kevy would go, look, I'm just going to put him on the chopping block here and just see if we can get within 6 of these guys. We just got to score 2 more tries. But yeah, maybe he's still a little gun shy about it. I don't know. But he looked fairly dejected after the game, and Clint Eastwood looked very happy. Wayne Bennett looked very, very happy.
He is loving. How much is he loving the fact that he's pretty much got a free ticket this year because it's already established he's not coming back to South. He'll get whatever job he wants if it's open at the end of the year. Yeah. And he's got a pretty good football side.
There's a couple of things he's really loving. He's loving that Latrell's going well. He brought it up in the press conference. I was in the presser the other night, and someone said something about, how do you think you're going? And he looked at this bloke and he said, well, you said that Latrell couldn't play fullback last year. And the bloke had to
who was it?
I think it was Brent Reed.
The name wanted to come out of my mouth as you said. Yep.
Yeah, I think it was him. I don't remember for sure.
For the sake of this
podcast,
it was all right.
Yeah, but I love Bennett in press conferences. I think he's an absolute hoot in press conferences. I really do like him, whether he's angry Wayne or happy Wayne. But yeah, mate, I think that Kevy's got to evolve a little bit with his rotations. He's got to learn that it's not set in stone that Pangai has to come off at 31 minutes, and it's not set in stone that such and such has to play the full game. I think he's got to be the coach that they need him to be, and that is to go with the flow of the game. Try and get the boys as close as you can to a win. Get them some, and if a couple of them get tired, well then bad luck. I just think that he's got to do that. One game we haven't spoken about though is Penrith and the Raiders, mate.
Well, we'll get to that because the order says.
Oh, we're going to get to it.
We've got to speed up actually because we've gone way long again. Sorry if you listen to this and you're bored out of your mind, you probably stopped the thing like 15, 20 minutes ago. So I understand.
Yeah.
Manly get their first win of the season. They won 13-12 over the Warriors. The Warriors will look back at this game and rue it at the end of the year because I reckon this is exactly the kind of match that stops you getting into a top 8. They had the game there to be won, and they just kept waiting for Manly to lose it. And you've got
Should
DCE
have won
there.
that game.
You got Kieran Foran there. They're not players that when the game's kind of close, just roll over and let the game get lost. And exactly what the Warriors didn't have in their side the other night was, as much as Roger tries, he's not the guy to march you up the field and take a field goal. And Cody Nicolson, who's taken some real strides in the last 12 months, almost seemed like he let Sean O'Sullivan take the reins in regards to that. That really surprised me because he's played like 10 first-grade games. And Nicolson has been the guy. And that's a game that you just can't lose if you're the Warriors. You're there, it's sitting there, and you let the DCE beat you in the last second of the match. Des relieved a lot of pressure, but Nathan Brown, this is the one that you're going to really rue.
Yeah, I think they will understand that in no uncertain terms once Gus has finished with team meetings today.
Discuss coach the team.
The way that they. No. A special advisor and chief. What is he? What are they?
He's the assistant to the traveling secretary, I think. Feel good. George Costanza, he's white-handed.
He'll have a few words for them, no doubt.
Yeah. Panthers 30, Raiders 10. Scoreline. I wouldn't say that it flattered the Panthers. I reckon it was probably a fair enough result. Although Jared Croker grounds that ball off the kick earlier in the match.
But didn't.
Who knows what happens in terms of the final score is what I mean. I'm not saying that Canberra win the match as a result of that, but it would have made things interesting. Look, I'm just I sent a message to you and I posted on our Insta and stuff. Like, the Panthers play football. Canberra complete. If you want to have a difference in the match, that's the match. Yeah. Look,
mate, I don't know who's going to beat Penrith this year, but whoever does, they'll deserve it because you've got to be prepared for a game against Penrith. They're firing on all cylinders at the moment, and short of them losing their 6 and 7, and their big edge back rower, all at the same time, I think they're destined to repeat what they did last year, but maybe even go one better. I see, every week they seem to have another little trick up their sleeve, or they're working on something else. And I just hope they don't fry out before they get.
If you're playing the style they play at the moment, they won't fry out
nicely, if you know what I'm saying.
They won't fry out. If they play the kind of footy they're playing at the moment, they won't fry because they're enjoying this style of football. You can see it. It's not they're getting into their match and every player's like, oh man, we won the game, but gee whiz, we worked hard for that. No. And I'm not saying they don't work hard. It's just you can see there is an enjoyment level with this team. Other teams, they get to the end of the 80 and they've worked their guts out and they might have the 2 points, but they've got to drag themselves back up for the next match. Not the case with Penrith. And Jerome Luai probably sums up this, is that he have 0 Dally M points on Friday night, by the way. Cleary got 3, which I think is ridiculous compared to what Luai did. Nathan Hindmarsh gave the votes at this time. Fisher Harris got 2, fine with that. And To'o got 1, who was really good, but Luai, no points. Dally M going tremendous once again. But the tries he set up, they're just eyes up football and expose Canberra in defence, which is not easy. Canberra tackle with a fair bit of intent, and at the end of the day, 30 points on them. Ricky can go away from that match, and hopefully, this is a Canberra fan putting his head on at the moment, sees that just grinding against the really good sides, it's not going to be enough.
Not going to work.
It's not going to be enough this year, and you're going to have to really let the ball sing and get the ball in Whiten's hands a lot more. Because look what happened in the first 15 minutes. He touched the ball. Looked dangerous.
Whiten and Williams are your secrets there. You need those two guys to create. Just like we were talking before about the Tigers. The difference is that Canberra do have the cattle to every coach likes to play well, nearly every coach likes to play a lot of structure. And I think part of it is egotistical because you think you're influencing the outcome of the game by offering your structure. This is where I think Ivan Cleary is, whether he's smart or whether he's just realised, you know what, I've got a once in a generation team here and I need to let them do what they're going to do. Yeah. Maybe it's a bit of both, but while ever they keep playing, you know, like you said before, eyes up football and what's happening in front of them, they'll be really, really hard to beat because Luai is probably one of the best at it, at you know, that he'd probably be a great touch footy player as well. You know, that elusiveness, the step, the fade, the jink, the cheekiness. And then you've got Nathan Cleary, who's probably a little bit more regimented and has an amazing kicking game, long and short, and can do everything. So at the moment, they've got a pretty handy team. You know, I hope they get through Origin.
Well, let's just quickly on them. They don't have their first choice fullback, Dylan Edwards, out. And Mitch Kenny is doing an amazing job making you not realise Apasai Coruscant is not there.
Well, and from all reports, Appy will only be another 3 weeks away. So, you know.
He was outstanding on Friday night.
He was very good.
Very
very
good.
good.
One thing I did want to point out. Sorry, yeah.
I was just going to say, he's just in this last 3 weeks, I think Mitch Kenny has probably added a couple of $100,000 to his asking price for his next contract to whoever that may be. He's going really
teams
well.
That do need a hooker. The last point I wanted to make on this game, and it's a credit to Penrith. Some teams we know love trying to play the ball down. Penrith are one of those sides. Their ability to get their hands in the football in that game was monumentally good, and they played chicken with the referee brilliantly. You can watch, if you want to watch that game again and watch that closely. They don't grab around the head, Penrith, but they grab the ball. They are on the ball every single tackle, and they take forever to get off it. And my view is always with something like that, if you're good enough to get it over the referee, good on you. What I don't like is when teams do it where they're grabbing other parts to then grab the ball.
Well,
there's a difference.
Basically, what you're saying there is there's a difference between what Melbourne do and what Penrith are doing.
Melbourne and other teams. There's other teams that teach it, but I just go, at the moment, Penrith, they've got it down to an art and they got away with it brilliantly on Friday night. We'll get quickly through the other games. We're sorry for how long this podcast is taking. It's been a couple of weeks. We didn't get the one out last week. Titans 42, Knights 16. Day for feeder, worth every cent. I told you. They had to do something, mate. They weren't going to go anywhere if they didn't go and spend the money. And good on them.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, there's a couple of players there that are making a big difference to them, and you know, obviously, Fafita and Tino are doing what they need to do, which is lifting the other players as well. Could you imagine if they had kept Arrow as well? It'd be back row essential.
Brimson's healthy, quality player. They found a halfback in Fogarty, which I didn't think they had. The team goes tremendous, and they beat a team that they're going to have to pop out of the top 8, and they beat them well. And Newcastle, we've discussed this before about Adam O'Brien. He goes the old Craig Bellamy route a little bit too often, and he did it again at halftime of this match, and his team got lapped by 40. It wears thin. It is a tactic that wears thin if you're not getting results.
Well, see, the thing about Bellamy is, I know he does it in the box. I don't think he does it as often in the room. You know, something Phil Gould said yesterday in the telecast about the Tigers game, and Madge was blowing up in the box, and Phil Gould said Madge should be really careful here and not take that down to the dressing room, because he will do his team more harm than good. You know, and halftime speeches, I think what Phil Gould said was, he said he shouldn't say what he thinks he wants to say. He should say what can help them.
Yeah.
And I think there's always that opportunity for a coach to blow off steam to make himself feel better, but the team then takes that out on the field and goes even worse. So obviously Madge said something okay yesterday, but obviously O'Brien didn't, if you know what I'm saying. Blowing up at halftime, you know, we've discussed this before. You only got 2 or 3 blow-ups a year at halftime. and then it just gets old. It's just an old bloke making noise at the front of the room. Really, that's what it is, and that's what players, especially players of today's generation, don't want. They don't want the ranting and raving at every halftime. They've just busted their bums out on the field for 40 minutes. Now, you can't say that every single one of them weren't trying. Maybe there was a few errors and whatnot, but when they come in after 40 minutes, the last thing that they really want or need is an old bloke with a clipboard blowing up. They want to know, because players on the field don't always know where it's going wrong. Sometimes they do, but they're looking around doing the best they can in their corridor, and sometimes they don't really know where it's going wrong, and it could be all going wrong on the other side of the field. So, yeah, I think Adam O'Brien has adapted the bellyache philosophy a little bit, but I don't think that bellyache does it as often as we think he does it, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, fair point.
Titans,
good win, into 7th spot on the ladder. The Ryan Pappenhausen show just continues, mate. You were at this game, and you were in my vision as they were zooming in on Brandon Smith chucking up on the sideline. He is. I'm going to come out and say it. All right.
Go on.
He seems to have as much ability as one B Slater. He really does. I'm not saying he's going to be the B Slater equivalent at the end of his career.
Yep. I know what you're saying.
There is everything you want in a human being, as they say. In Ryan Pappenhausen, he is by far their most dangerous footballer. He is, and I'm saying that he's more dangerous than Cam Munster. Cam Munster's more of a competitor and you'll carry on your back kind of player. But Pappenhausen is a joy to watch. Like, I can't think of many players apart from maybe Teddy.
Different style of player.
But I love watching this kid play, and he's carved up another team. Yes, it was the Bulldogs. Blah, 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 blah. You can only beat who's in front of you. And Melbourne 52, Dogs 18.
Yeah. On Pappenhausen, mate, another one that the Tigers let go. Should never have been let go. But anyway, Melbourne have benefited from that. He's a freaky player and can kick goals as well. I think you're right. Watch this space. He's going to get better. He's not going to go any worse. He's not going to get worse than he is now. He's going to get better and better. On the Bulldogs, mate, they've got issues. They've got. Everybody knew this. Everybody knew that Trent Barrett going in there was going to be a little bit of a flogging to nothing for him. I think he should have been a little more patient and stayed at Penrith a little longer. He probably would have got himself a club that isn't in as much disarray behind the scenes. Therefore, it would be easier to figure out. Maybe he likes a challenge. I'm not too sure. But the players that they've signed for, they've got a couple of things. Kotrick, right? They're still playing Kotrick on the wing.
Can I just quickly say, because I watch him pretty closely, he has not been their issue the first 4 weeks. They may have only had only one game where they scored points, but he actually has played okay. Defensively, he hasn't been fantastic, but he's been defending on the wing on the left-hand side. He then moved him to the right wing outside Will Hopewade, who then was playing outside DWZ, who does not pass the ball. The amount of times they swept right, so you're taking your player who you're spending $600,000 on, and you moved him further away from the ball. For what reason? I don't get it, Trent Barrett. It's not sparking your attack. And he's got Corey Allen, who was the Queensland winning fullback last year, playing left centre, which would be this is a really strange thing for me. I mean, in saying all of that, DWZ didn't play badly. I've seen him play worse games. Correct.
But I would have liked to have seen Kotrick. There's no way all week in his heart of hearts that Barrett thought they were going to win that game.
Yeah.
Right. So why not try a few things? Why not try Kotrick at fullback?
Yeah.
Or why not try him at left centre?
Try Avarillo at fullback where he should be playing. He's not a six. He can't defend him. Ridiculous.
I just they're sitting around waiting, with their fat lip at their big powdered lip, waiting for Burton to show up. He ain't showing up this year, Trent.
And
he's not showing up this year, brother.
Outside backs or wing backs. They have issues in the middle. They can't tackle in the middle either. They got issues everywhere. The old Bulldogs.
So they bought Corey Allen, Kotrick, Addo-Carr, and Burton, who's at best a 5'8". I still think he's a centre.
Yeah.
And he's playing pretty good at centre at the moment. So, like you say, they bought all outside backs. Where's
the only forward they've got is Luke Thompson, who they got halfway through last year, who looks a player. But, mate, Kyle Flanagan, he needs to be the second banana. He needs to be the second banana. He ain't the main banana.
No.
He's just going to get bruised all year and be unusable by the end of the year. It's a real worry if you're the Dogs.
Listen, mate, you know and I know that there's a few clubs, probably 5 or 6 clubs in the comp that don't lose players or don't offload players that are the business.
Yeah.
The Roosters are probably right at the top of that heap along with Melbourne. They offloaded a 1-year halfback. There's reasons.
Yeah.
That obviously some of those reasons was Sam Walker coming online as well, but there's more to it than what a lot of pundits think. There's a reason why they got rid of Flanagan, and it's because they didn't see the whole package in him. You know, he's a halfback who is a second banana halfback.
Yeah.
You know, because you had Keary there. But anyway, they did that. Canterbury fans, I'm sorry. You're in the bottom 4 this year. That's all there is to it. That's where you're going to stay until the club starts to recruit a little bit differently.
The game plan has got to change. You've got to be just all-out attack, Trent Barrett. You're an attack coach at Penrith. If you really were the one pulling the strings, let your team offload, encourage ball movement wide, get it part. Like you can't have DWZ is a stats guy. All right. So at the end of the game, he might have 18 runs for 150 meters, and you go, "Oh, he played well." But did he actually use any of the blokes outside him like you need a fullback in today's game to do? The answer is no. Did he drop the ball? Yeah. Yes. Did he have a couple of defensive plays there that look, he tried to get there, but would somebody else have got there? Just little things that I just go, look, at best he's a winger. They're paying fullback money. Corey Allen, I just go, needs to be at fullback if you really fair dinkum about why you signed him. But Averillo, his position is in the 1. It's not in the 6 because you just can't have him getting run over the whole game. He ended up showing some touches towards the end of the game, which was great to see. But you're paying these blokes to play these positions, just play in there and let the team play some football. Adam Elliott can offload. Josh Jackson, we know, can actually play some football. But then about 8 years ago, they decided to turn him into a David Stagg and make him defend the whole time. There's Dylan Napa, we know, occasionally shows something. I don't know. I just don't understand why. And it's come out of every dressing room when they say what's been said at halftime. And Baz is all about completions. It's all about worry about ourselves and get to our kids. It's just like, mate, if that's the message, get ready for 50 to 18 the rest of the year.
Yep. It's going to happen.
Anyway, that's the podcast because I don't know if I've got anything else to talk about. Do you have anything else to talk about, Cocksmith?
I don't know. Did we have anything else in the beginning to talk about?
No, I just thought we'd talk about the football. It's been 2 weeks.
Fair enough.
No, I've got nothing
Sounds
else.
like
No bonus segment this week. I'm also running out of battery on the computer. I'm on the lovely mid-north coast of New South Wales. What a place.
When are you home, by the way, mate?
I don't want to come back.
Okay.
It's been 2 weeks. I got to come back
there
for the weekend. There's something on the weekend that I've got to come back for to Sydney, but it's been a pleasure up here at North Haven on the mid-north coast. So if you haven't got us on Instagram yet, the people are loving occasionally some of the stuff up. I think the key obviously is always talk up Penrith players. Gets lots of likes. It's a tough
Love the
decision.
Penny Panthers.
And I think you've pretty much got off as good as the Dragons are going. You are much more of a Panthers fan now than you were ever a Dragons. You love your Panthers.
No, mate. I've told you I've told you my favourite team is the Dragons for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And my next two in equal, and it pains me to say it, Penrith and the Tigers. It's not good being a semi-Tigers fan on a Monday morning, though.
No.
Not while they keep dishing up what they dish.
So is Camden, Narellan, it's considered Tiger Town, isn't it?
Well, it is, yeah.
What's just as we wrap it up, almost come back to the start of the show, but is there much talk? Is there much feeling out there that, oh, whoa, we suck again?
Oh, no! We suck again!
Well, I haven't canvassed the streets this morning, but
Get to
when
it,
I
hurry up.
when I occasionally do talk to people around that are into rugby league, there's a lot of eye rolling going on with the Tigers, and you know, it's tough. I get it. It's tough to be at the top of the Premiership or up at the top of the table in this Premiership and in this competition. But these people have been charged with that job, and the job ain't happening at the moment. I honestly think that the Tigers need to change a whole lot of stuff. I'm not sure the coach is the first thing to change. I'm not sure if he's even should be in the conversation to change things, to be honest with you. He's a proven coach, but I think there's other factors at play. You know, there's the Tigers haven't been successful for a long time. Okay.
Yeah.
And they need to change a lot about the club. Some players and some administrators probably need to go, because there's not a real winning culture there at the moment, is there?
There's not a lot of quality players. There's people getting paid a lot of money, but the actual quality.
When was, just out of interest, and I don't want to turn this in, we probably already had, but I want to turn into a Tigers bashathon, but when was the last time they made the 8? Do you know?
Yeah, I had it up on my screen a bit earlier. 2011, I think it was.
Was it?
Okay.
Which is, you know, that's 10 years ago.
Hang on, I'll make sure of this, because otherwise people are going to hate us. 2011, they finished 4th.
So that's 10 years ago. All right. And who was the coach then?
T. Sheens.
T. Sheens.
So they got rid of Tim Sheens after he finished 10th the next year.
Right. So they considered it a failure to finish 10th, obviously. Otherwise, they wouldn't have got rid of Sheens, other than there might be some other reasons that we don't know about. So it'd be interesting to do a timeline on who were the administrators in the club then and how they've gone, because the players get judged by that, as do the coaches and the coaching staff. So, you know,
well, on that, this is my real concern from a Tigers fan. All right. When the big 4 were off contract, they had Aaron Woods' money, James Tedesco's money, Mitchell Moses' money. And remember, Pascoe came out and said, now we have money to spend. We're going to spend it. War chest. Well, the last 3 years, let's not talk about it. Worry about the next 3 years, because they're going to have the BJ contract come off. They're going to have the Mbai contract come off. The Reynolds contract's off. I know Brooks, who knows? But they're going to have some.
There's no way he can stay. There's no way he can stay at that club. If he wants to restart and reboot his career, he's going to have to leave that club. He can't stay there.
But who do you spend it on? That's the question, really, Tigers fans to take away and think about, is that it's great to have the money, but the money is easy to spend. It's a lot harder to get quality in, and that's the challenge for the Tigers.
Well, and the other problem is I'm just unsure about their, you know, their development. You know, how many players do they have in deep development at the moment? Who knows?
It is something that Gus, who we haven't mentioned on the podcast yet, or you did actually, but he bangs on about. It's like you're developing for 10 years down the track. You're not developing for next year.
That's right.
It's a lot of pain, and it's a lot of money, and you're spending it now for the benefits down the track. And I must admit, Rothfield's 5-year plan jive at Bennett Gould hasn't come out for a little bit, and I wonder if it's because of the success happening at the foot of the mountains, because that ain't all Ivan Cleary, folks. Let's just say that.
No, that's this has been in the makings for around about 8 to 10 years. This whole thing, you know, you look at the team they got now is a team that they've been building since Matthews Cup and before that, you know. So yeah, mate, I really hope the Tigers get out of their problem though, because from what we saw yesterday, if that's the worst of it, I can kind of live with it, but it's going to need to improve for everyone involved, because there's some big money being spent at these clubs on the players, the administrators, and the coaches. And if they can't do the job, then, or if they can't get the result, everyone can do the job. You know, you can pretend to do a job for a long time, but if you're not getting the result, it's time to go. It's time to leave. You know,
and it is time to leave here on episode 231. We've got
100%.
an hour. I wish
Good
we
to
had
good
that.
to see you though, mate.
Oh,
We,
it's fantastic to see you, mate. I got
I didn't even
a
hear from you last week.
$20 haircut here in.
You paid $20 for that.
I'll be going home
Penny.
and paying 25 to get it fixed. I won't
Wow.
mention the place that I got it done at, but yeah, I was concerned the entire time, and I'm like, oh, don't take too much off, which was basically code for don't butcher my head completely.
Exactly.
Because if there's still something there to work with a little bit later. Yeah, that was a nice comment of you, mate. Appreciate it. We're at Instagram at Not The Footy Show. He's ROBBCOX. I'm at NRL Tweet on the Twitter, and we're on Facebook, facebook.com/NRL Podcast. We'll speak to you next time, everybody, here on Not The Footy Show.
Catch you later, mate. Pepsi.
Not the Footy Show.
It's people's escape, it's people's relaxation, and we need to do everything in order to continue that great tradition of
Not the Footy Show.
Pepsi.